Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of K-Talk. I am Randy.
And I'm Adriana.
And today, even though it is March, we are going to be talking about zombies.
Yeah, so March zombies.
Yes, March zombies. Specifically, zombies in Korean movies and television.
Yes. It seems that it's been a little bit of a resurgence in Korean television where like shows that are about zombies or zombie-like infections have kind of been prevalent in the recent couple of years. Not a surprise with the pandemic, it brings back like a lot of, fears about the living dead, apparently. And recently there have been a couple of shows that have been really good. So we want to start out talking about the Train to Busan series, because that really kind of felt like it kicked off this new era of zombie-like movies and television and Korean media. But wow, what a kickoff. Because Train to Busan is honestly, like, for me, before Train to Busan,
I didn't really watch movies, Korean movies.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I mainly focused on television because that's how I started watching Korean content.
Right.
And I don't even remember why. I mean, if I watch a horror film, it usually involves zombies in some way.
Yeah.
So, Gongyu, zombies, and I was like, I'm there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, why wouldn't you be there?
I got the opportunity to watch it. I can't remember which service I watched it on, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on Hoopla to start with. And it was an excellent film. Excellent film.
Yeah, I think I watched it on Netflix. Because, like, my Netflix is all Asian content. But like I was saying, I've always been a big fan of zombie films and zombie shows. And I was really into The Walking Dead for the first, like, I would say 4 seasons. And then I kind of was like, okay, this is getting redundant. But Dawn of the Dead was the remake of Dawn of the Dead was by far, hands down, my favorite zombie film until Train to Busan. And then Train to Busan came around and I was like, oh my god, this is how it should be.
Well, it's such an interesting idea because, most of the time, like,
they're in a building.
Yes, they're stuck in a place where there's more space.
Yes.
And the idea that you're on a train that's moving
through infested areas and you're trying to get somewhere.
And you're stuck on this train with zombies. It's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
So
where do you go?
Yes.
And it's not like a chug-along train that might be going like 20, 30 miles an hour where you might consider jumping off the train. No. This thing's a high-speed train going at like 80, 90 miles an hour. So you're not going to be jumping off this train.
No.
And the performances in this movie are spectacular. From the little girl up to all the adults. I was just blown away by their emotion, by how much they are able to portray like the struggles, like even just bringing in politics into it. Like you have that one man who's like, oh, you don't know who I am, and like then we start getting this like division of class where they don't want to let certain people in just one movie, and they did it so well. So Train to Busan, it was a fantastic film. It was followed up by Train to Busan Peninsula, which went a completely different route.
Yeah, it felt very Mad Max.
Yes.
To me. It did feel like a completely different film.
Yeah.
I did like how they went a little bit more into the backstory and covered a little bit about what it felt like. Obviously in Train to Busan, they're focusing on a group of individuals that are trying to escape Seoul as this sort of zombie infestation is happening.
Right.
And they're going to Busan. But this is kind of focusing on other people that are trying to get out of Seoul as well, in different ways.
Yeah.
And following one particular man and his family and his eventual return to Korea and this sort of breakdown of society into this just
I mean, it's interesting, you know, when we open on the second movie, he's in China, I believe, right? They've been evacuated to China or some nearby Asian country.
Yeah.
And you start to see this, you know, it's not like they were welcomed with open arms. They were outcast. They were, you know, demeaned.
They were refugees.
They were refugees, pretty much. But everybody was scared of them because they came from an infected area. Mm-hmm. And then we get to see him return to Seoul and how it's broken down into, like you said, Mad Max kind of world. Mm-hmm. And the world is just kind of like... anyone that comes from there, we don't want anywhere anymore. You know, it's just kind of like the world has wiped South Korea off the map and kind of, you know, we just want to quarantine everything there. But, you know, I think that even though it was a very different style of movie, it still had some really fun and entertaining moments. The little girl with the little car, I could not get enough of her. And I was just like, oh my God, it's so much fun.
It is very Mad Max with some very...
There's a lot of more action.
Crazy characters in this film. And
I mean, everybody's lost their mind.
Yes. But there's also like pockets of people who are trying to find a way out, just like in the first film.
Yeah.
And so our main character ends up meeting this group of people, and so it again becomes, can I get out alive?
Yeah. The only thing I will say that I really, really, really hated about this movie was one of the end scenes where, you know, we had all these... I'm not going to say what happened. I'm not going to say what happened. But there's a lot of action sequences in this movie, obviously, because, you know, they're being chased or whatever. But one of the end scenes took such an interminable, long time to end that I was just like, the movie could have been over 5 minutes ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so if there's one criticism I have about this movie, that would be it.
I would say that I enjoyed Train to Busan more than Peninsula.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
Train to Busan
I would recommend checking out both of them because they're both very good. Different actors, different settings, still zombies.
Yeah.
And then there's also an animated prequel. All of these called Soul Station. All of these are on Hoopla that you can check out with your library card. So you can sort of get
your feet wet into zombies and Korean kind of content. But they're very good, very well recommended. Neither of us have seen the animated version yet, so we can't really comment on it. But, you know, storytelling is an art that Korea has taken really well, and it has produced some great content. Which brings us to the next one, which is a Netflix original, I think, right? Kingdom is a Netflix?
Yes.
So, Kingdom, which I waited a very long time to watch. And I'm still very angry right now.
You're only angry because it's not done.
Yes. I really like waiting till things are done. Even if I have to wait a few years, I like waiting till things are done.
I agree with you, but I also have that same thing. Like, normally when I watch a drama, I wait until the whole thing is finished, and then, like...
That's your weekend.
And then I binge watch it.
Yeah.
But this drama was so good that I didn't care.
Yeah.
So...
And she kept telling me about it, and I, you know, finally I thought it was done, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. And from the first frame, I was hooked.
Yeah.
That drama is spectacular. It's a short drama, so there's only 6 episodes per season. And there's only 2 seasons out with a kind of prequel movie as well. But if you like palace intrigue, if you like history, if you like zombies, this is right up that alley because it is just phenomenal. You've got so many stories going on, and then just the creepiness factor. I mean, anytime we think about zombies, we think about like modern times. And so you have
historical Joseon zombies.
Yeah.
It's
insane.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, you think about, like, the infrastructure of today, and you have, like, these solid doors that you could barricade, and, you know, there's so many ways for you to get out of where you are.
Well, yeah, and in most stories, you know, you deal with zombies, like, with guns and,
Yes.
and advanced weaponry, and in this historical drama, obviously there is none of that.
There is, I think, like, one gun in the whole thing. Isn't there, like, a rifle?
Yeah.
But they're basically fighting zombies with arrows, swords, and then, like, at night, I mean, there's no light.
Yeah.
You're, like, basically just running around with torches and trying to figure out if there's a zombie 10 feet away from you because it's that dark. And this series does that so well. Because if there's one thing that I absolutely loved about this was the lighting. Because there are times where all you see is the torch kind of moving and you barely see, like, their outline, but you know that the zombies are all right there because they were there 10 minutes ago. And so it's fantastic. They've still been saying that season 3 is coming.
I hope so. I mean, it has kind of an ambiguous ending in season 2. So there's more story that could be there, and I think we've talked about this in other K-Talks where we really want them to make a season 3, and fingers crossed, I hope they do. If they don't, I would cry.
I would be really mad.
But it is so well done. I recommend it to everybody, even if they don't like zombie stuff, because it's, like you said, it's very well written, very well acted.
And it just puts you in a totally different time where it's new. You know, it's not like your typical zombie flick. Even like the original zombies, like
there was another one that came out with Hyun Bin around the same time. It was a movie, Rampant, I believe it was called. That was also on Hoopla. I don't know if it's still on there, but so different. Like they were trying to do the same thing, and it was okay.
But it wasn't as well.
But it was no Kingdom.
Yeah, Kingdom is definitely. Yeah. I would say it's up there with, like, some of the top tier Korean dramas. Like, that is how good this is. Yeah. I was so hooked into it. I was just like, oh my God, why isn't this finished? And I'm still like, oh, I need to see this ending. I need to, you know, really have a true ending for this. And I just want to see more. This is so well produced. It's so well written that I just can't say enough about it. I would say another Netflix original, and this was a movie, came out around the time of the second season, I think, of Kingdom. Was it?
Oh, I feel like it was in 2020.
Okay, yeah. So somewhere around there was Alive. And it's not like Train to Busan. It's no Train to Busan. But it is still a very well adapted zombie movie. You know, like the escalation of events is crazy. You know, zombie movies have, like, this period of time where things escalate, and this movie was like, oh, it's morning, I should brush my teeth. Oh my God, zombie apocalypse. It was just that fast.
Yeah, like, so in Alive, the main character is actually alone in his apartment when this zombie apocalypse happens. Like, normally you're in a situation where you have a group of people that are stuck together, and instead he's isolated alone by himself, and that is so different from other films and movies and TV shows that I've watched. So it was kind of like, slowly, as things, like, in the beginning, like, he still had internet and he still had power and he had food, but as time went on, of course, all of that goes away, and then it's like, what do you do?
You're basically, like, if you step out through your door,
because you're all surrounded.
So, I mean, that's one thing I think was the reason why the escalation of events was so fast in this film was to give you that time frame where you start to see the deterioration of his living quarters and him and his mental state. Like, I mean, he's basically got no connection to anyone anymore.
No.
And so he hits a breaking point. But then he finds out that he is not alone. There's actually someone across from him, and so we have a little bit of a let's try to get out kind of phase. So I think this was done very well. There were certain things that I really loved about this, and that was one of them, was the way that they showed how his mental and living environment just kind of de-escalated. The special effects in this are fairly well done as well. You know, a lot of the zombies are real people. They're not all CG. So you don't have like, you know, a World War Z type of situation where you see like hundreds of thousands of zombies. It's very well contained into this one complex. So, you know, that's one thing that I do have to give credit to in like Korean media is when they do something like zombies and stuff, even like Train to Busan, there was some special CG effects. But for the most part, they try to contain it into these...
The actors?
Yeah.
They have excellent zombie actors.
Yeah, they do. Oh my God! The other day, okay, so I'll talk about that when we get to the other two. Anyway, but like this one had minimal CG. Like all the actors, because they were just basically filming in this one complex. Whereas you look at something like a grander scale that encompasses the world or things like that, then you get like these hordes, and you could tell they're CG generated. You know, after time, the graphics deteriorate. But I do have to give them credit for sticking it out with real people. It's not easy. It's, you know, they have to do a lot of stunt work and a lot of movement work. So really well done. And then recently there was one that was zombie-esque, but it wasn't exactly zombies.
Oh, yeah. So this particular one was on... I watched on Viki. It was a shorter drama. I believe it was like 10 or 12 episodes. It was called Happiness, and it followed a couple as they move into their new apartment. And they're both sort of like in law enforcement. One is kind of like in a SWAT position, and the other one is a cop. And they end up becoming involved in this situation where there's a pill or something that is supposed to, it's not a drug, it's not some illegal substance, it's just something that is supposed to, it was a drug introduced to make, to combat an illness. So this is something that was done like,
yeah, it was initially
coronavirus.
Right. It was initially like produced to combat an illness, but because it failed on the market,
they took it off.
They took it off. They remarketed it.
Yes.
And launched it as like it helped you focus and it helped you lose weight.
Yeah.
It was weird.
So basically, like, this pill is not supposed to be widely taken. It's not an illegal pill, but what it actually does is basically turn you into like a zombie-like creature who yearns for blood.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like a vampire zombie hybrid.
Yes.
Like they don't want to kill you, though they do.
Yeah.
But they really get thirsty and want your blood.
Yes.
So like the first kind of symptoms are like you get super thirsty. So they're always like, who's drinking water, you know, kind of thing. And so they're also stuck in this complex that they just moved into where the drug was being kind of sold through their gym. So the building has a lot of people. In fact, this cluster of buildings, I should say, have a lot of infected in it. And we see the response of the government. And that's, I think, one of the biggest...
It's like government military response, but then there's also like inside the complex, there's haves and the have-nots, because there's like people that are like people that own or that are
Mm-hmm.
purchasing their homes,
Versus
and there are
those that
people
rent.
that are renting their homes. So there's like class differences, and that comes into play in this drama. And
Then there's a government infrastructure and how they're dealing with it. So like they isolate them. They basically build a wall around these complexes, and then it's almost like at one point they're ready like to pull the plug on the complex and just be like,
Yeah.
you know, we're done, because they see that if now that like the pill has turned certain people into like zombie type vampire thingies, they can infect other people.
yeah, it spreads
So
very
it
easily
spreads
and very
fast.
quickly.
Yeah.
And so it sort of follows these two particular people, but also the other people that are in this one particular complex, and it sort of just like devolves from there. And there's a lot of action and some great characters,
And some development of those characters. One of the things that I thought, and it's something that we're probably going to continue to see. I've seen it more in Korean dramas and I've seen in Korean content than I've seen it hit the U.S. market yet. Then again, I don't really watch a lot of American stuff, so anyway, I might be missing it. But one of the things that I've noticed, and you know, media and all the things that we create, whether it's books, music, or television, movies, it reflects all of what we think, our fears, our thoughts, our ideas, and whatnot. And what we're seeing is this whole like the haves, have nots. It's becoming a prevalent subject. We're seeing a lot of like the government is doing all of this and we're just taking it kind of situation too. So I think that's something that's going to be recurring, because it also happens in the latest one that we will talk about next. You haven't seen it yet,
No.
but I don't want to spoil it because it's fairly new. But we'll just talk about it.
It's on my
briefly.
list.
Yeah.
There's so many on my list, but it's on my list of things to watch.
But you see that, and there's like moments where in Happiness where even like public opinion shifts, because at one point one of them gets out and they realize that nobody cares that they're in lockdown, and everybody's just moved on with their lives and kind of forgotten about them, because at first people were protesting and saying like, you know, free these people and whatnot, and then they shut down everything. They took their internet away, they took their electricity away, and then they kind of let them see how easily this could spread, and people just were like, nope, lock them down, get rid of them, you know, evacuate them, do what you gotta do, don't let this happen to me. So you see all of those kinds of things and how quickly humanity can shift, where we can go from being very compassionate and caring about each other to everyone out for themselves. So that's one thing that we do see, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be a recurring subject in a lot of dramas, especially the horror dramas. So the last one that, you know, unless you had anything to say about Happiness.
No, I loved it.
It was great. It's fantastic. I mean, who doesn't love Park Hyun-sik dramas?
The main character was also, the main female character was also different from other... Like, in some dramas, they're
very weak,
timid.
This
character was
I
not.
mean, we talked about that. Even like, you know, there are certain dramas where the female characters will start out very strong, and then all of a sudden a man gets involved and she can't do anything.
I mean, there
the
was
whole drama she was on it.
I was just like, you go, girl.
Yeah, I mean, even at the end when he did it for her own good, she came back and said, "Don't you dare!"
Yeah. No.
So yes, I really did think that was fantastic. That her character stayed strong.
Female character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one that we want to touch base upon would be the newest of the zombie dramas, which is All of Us Are Dead, which recently got released on Netflix, and to, I think, big popularity. And
that was based on a webtoon, right?
Yes, that was based on a webtoon. And this is set in high school. So this is like really young kids dealing with zombies. You know, usually we stick to adults for zombie type anything. There's usually maybe like a kid involved here and there. No, this was all teens. So you're looking at like 14 to 18-year-olds, and we even see younger than that.
And they're all stuck in their high school.
Well, they were the whole thing started at the high school because of a professor who was
always the professor
playing with science. And so he accidentally, somebody accidentally got bit, and they detained him, and while they detained him, things just went and so he was
as in all zombie movies.
Yeah, and he was like, I told you to let me go. I told you blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, things went out of hand quickly. Great acting, I would say. Amazing acting.
And I was reading somewhere that most of the actors, or if not all of them, are fairly new to acting.
Yes. There are some very new faces to this. There's some very poignant moments in this. There is a lot of it is going to pull at your heartstrings, but it is also going to make you think about what you would do in that situation. I think most zombie films and shows do make you think about that, but this was, you're dealing with a teenager mentality, so it's it's all about the id, and so it's basically, are they going to help each other, or are they going to sabotage each other? So you have all of those, interplays going on. Like, he likes her, she likes him, who likes who, and
but they're zombies.
And we should work together. Hell, no, I don't like you, kind of thing. Really great. You do get some adults in this as well, and we do see the way that the government responds to the situation as well. And there are some moments where you feel for them. You're like, oh my God, they're, it's bad. I would recommend this. Definitely more of a fast-paced kind of zombie action type thing. But it's very well done, very well edited. I found the editing in this very well paced. I was like, okay, I kept being intrigued. Even if there was a little bit of a lull, all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, no, what's going on? Kind of thing. So, and again, I think this one was 10, 12 episodes, so it wasn't like a full scale 16. I would say this had an ending, but also had possibly a second season, and I think I just saw today that they may have announced the second season, because by the end of this, zombies are still in the world, even though they've kind of gotten control of the situation. They're still, the virus is still out there.
Of course. You never die.
No, they don't. I mean, once you get a zombie, that's it. Yeah. You're done. It's always going to come back. But, that was our extensive list of zombie type content that you can expect from Korea. So we hope you enjoyed this episode and come back next month for more Korean content. See you then.